Welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at the Sunday main slate, 10 games starting at 105. Overall, pretty friendly slate. You got plenty of pitchers to go after. Also, a fair amount to really target against. So pretty simple 10-game slate, pretty straightforward.
I'd say relatively straightforward until you kind of have to decide who you're going to do for pitching. That's going to be some tough decisions, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll break them down here. Jumping into the first game, Rays and Yankees, Luis Severino versus Jake Odorizzi. As far as pitching goes, I don't mind Jake Odorizzi. He's much more of a GPP play than a cash game guy for me. He's really solid against left-handers, which I do like. But obviously he struggles a little bit on the road, is a little bit home run prone. But at 8,200, I'm certainly going to give him a look.
Yeah, I'll give him a look. And again, against this Yankees lineup, that's just all over the place. I don't mind him as a deep tournament guy, but at the same time, it's kind of just another one of those mid-range. Well, he could just have a bad day, and it's not like he just has bad days. Not very often. It's pretty random. So I don't mind it, but at the same time, deep tournaments, I'd definitely be looking at Brian McCann, though, on the other side there. Maybe a Starlin Castro as well.
Yeah, with Odorizzi and his reverse splits, I think you want to look at some of the right-handers. Curious to see where those back-end guys, obviously Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge, two young bats with obviously a lot of potential ahead of them. Certainly intriguing, diving down into value plays, just kind of depending where they are in the lineup.
For sure.
As far as the Rays go, Luis Severino, I'm looking at some of the lefties here. Obviously, Brad Miller at 4,500 is always in play for me. Severino's been okay against lefties, nothing spectacular, pretty average. But I like Miller, in a solid stretch here. Corey Dickerson as well. Matt Duffy's back and healthy. I'm curious to see how he kind of plays out if he's in the lineup and where he's at.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that they've moved Kevin Kiermaier up to the top of the lineup and kind of kept Dickerson down sort of towards the end of the order against righties. But, yeah, I like those three, obviously including Brad Miller. He's kind of like the main piece there that you look for. But, yeah, I think this is a pretty good matchup for the lefties here.
Yeah, I do too, and I don't mind Evan Longoria at 4-4. Severino's been hit hard by righties. Four-size price, 4,800 is not something I'm all about. If he was facing a lefty, I'd be okay with it, but 4,800 is a little bit up for him in a righty-righty matchup.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, overall, as far as that game goes, I think there could be some potential. I think it's actually one that I might stroll through that Rays lineup more than once when building lineups.
Yeah, 8.5 over/under, but I kind of buy the over on that, Yeah,
I definitely do too, especially in that ballpark. Astros and Blue Jays, Marcus Stroman versus Mike Fiers. Stroman, last time he pitched against this Houston team, double-digit strikeouts came away with a tremendous outing. Obviously, that's anyone's potential. Obviously 13 is asking a lot, but that really is any potential that's facing a Houston offense because they do strike out a ton, over 23% strikeout rate against righties. I'm certainly okay with using Stroman again in GPP formats.
I definitely am too. I'm wondering if he's going to be a little chalky, though, because people are going to look at that previous matchup. Because it definitely can go the other way, too. Obviously, we've seen that with Stroman this year, and we've seen that with this Astros team. So, yeah, very volatile matchup. I like both sides for tournaments. Definitely lean more Stroman than Astros, but George Springer is a guy I'm definitely looking at here as well as sort of Carlos Correa.
Yeah, I definitely am too. Those two are the ones that caught my eye, especially at their prices. Outside of that, though, on that Houston offense, I don't really like the prices of Altuve. I don't find myself really digging down for value there around those options.
No.
As far as the Blue Jays go, I like picking on Fiers here a little bit. 3.39 WOBA to righties, 1.44 home runs per nine. I'm certainly okay with using Edwin Encarnacion at 4,300. I also don't mind Devin Travis at 4-4 Donaldson as well. I'm certainly in on this front four and even five with Tulowitzki there for Toronto.
Yeah, no, I like going at him, but in a standalone type of way. I don't necessarily want to stack the Blue Jays, but I do think Encarnacion, as you mentioned, Tulowitzki, and Donaldson are all definitely in play from a tournament standpoint.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, obviously, when that lineup comes out, I mean, if Russell Martin's anywhere around fifth or sixth, I'm okay with him as well.
Yep, nice 3,100 price for sure.
Yeah. Angels and Indians next here. Jared Weaver versus Trevor Bauer. Um,
Uh-oh.
that says it all right there.
Yeah.
Jared Weaver facing an Indians offense that's absolutely rolling right now. It just screams head for the hills, hide your eyes because Weaver's about to get slaughtered on the mound in Cleveland.
And they don't do it slowly, or they don't do it quickly. They just beat you. Well, sometimes they do it quickly, but then it just keeps building. It just keeps building throughout the game. So, yeah, you really worry about Jason Kipnis here, Lindor. I mean, that top three is definitely a cash stack for me, even at their big pricing. And, I mean, Weaver's been bad against righties too, so Napoli as well. I say you fit these guys in as much as you can. I mean, it's sort of the same situation as any righty. You're looking at Chisenhall, Naquin, but even more so in this matchup. This whole lineup's pretty much cash for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Weaver 343 Woba to lefties, 1.44 home runs per nine, a low 33% ground ball rate, a lot of potential for home runs, just solid upside and a solid floor for this team. It's really hard to get away from them. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to pay down a little bit elsewhere, and as well as maybe on the hill to get some of those guys in if you are going multiple Indians. But I think it's something that'll definitely pay off.
For sure.
As far as the Angels go, looking at Trevor Bauer, I mean, he's been a little bit up and down, especially over his last 6 to 7 starts. Bauer's a guy who, against lefties, is pretty average. And same thing with righties. I mean, he's pretty neutral against both sides of the plate. I'm okay with using a Calhoun or a Pujols in a GPP fashion. I'm still not on paying up for a 5,600 Mike Trout for the best player in the game. I find myself never using him because of the price.
It's weird, right? Even sometimes when he's in the high fours, I just feel a little uncomfortable. And I don't know if that's just it. It's not that even all his numbers are great. It just seems to be on a day-to-day basis. It's not consistent enough for me to really trust. Obviously, if you look at the splits, it's going to be unreal. Pretty much anything Mike Trout does at bat is awesome. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. He has to get more than a home run here to hit value. So I don't know that I'm totally in on it.
That's my thing with Trout. It's he's had those games where yes, he's hit a home run, he's had a double, but when you can get production like that for cheaper and finding it cheaper into the fours, you might as well go after and try and do that. I'd rather take my shot at guys in 4Ks than trying to get a 5,600 Mike Trout to do a double homer game or something like that. It's just it's so much more optimal to chase downwards than actually chase upwards with a crazy expensive Trout.
Now, if Mike Trout was batting third for the Indians tomorrow against Jared Weaver, yeah, I'll pay 5,600, sure. But that's obviously not the case, and Bauer has had some pretty good games, so kind of a fade for me. I'll say it, a fade.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm okay with Calhoun and Pujols in GPP formats, but that's pretty much it.
I'm less afraid of Mike Trout than I am Max Kepler.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's how much he's beaten me down.
Who's hurt you?
Yeah, Max Kepler's hurt me.
White Sox and Marlins here next. Chris Sale versus Tom Kohler. Chris Sale, one of the elite arms on the slate. He's my guy that I'm going to be rolling with in cash games. It's hard to trust anyone else for a top option. So I'm certainly okay with using him. Facing a Marlins team that obviously there are a couple right-handers that he's going to need to watch out for. But overall, they're pretty middle of the road against lefties. And I'm certainly okay with Sale here.
Yeah, I do always get a little worried when there's aces facing the Marlins, but some of the good lefties have had good luck, like Bumgarner. They've kind of just run through them. So I like Sale. He has been a little inconsistent for 12K, but in terms of cash options, he's really what you're looking at. So I'm okay with firing away here, even with the Vegas odds where they're at.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, among pitchers here today, there really is no other elite name on this slate. I mean, you look at Sale, it's like after him, there's guys, obviously Steven Matz is a quality arm who we'll get to, but then you got guys like Trevor Bauer. You do have Zach Greinke in a tough matchup. Those type of arms, Oda Rizzi. It's not where there's a slate where there's multiple aces going today. It's kind of where Sale goes, and then there's a tier 2 below, and that's where everything kind of starts to fall.
Absolutely.
So as far as using Marlins, I can't really justify using them. I know Sale has had a couple of unclean games, and obviously there is still some potential over there for Stanton Ozuna, but it's just a deep, deep tournament play.
Okay, I'll say deep tournament play. I won't say deep, deep tournament play. I'll say deep tournament play. That's where I draw the line.
Okay, that's fair. But I mean, outside of those two, there's nothing else I want to really dive into with this Marlins offense.
No, definitely not. You look at Ozuna at 33. That's a pretty solid price.
Yeah. And as far as Tom Kohler goes, obviously the matchup is pretty solid for him on paper. The 8,600 price tag for me isn't. I don't really like that here, and especially with the fact that I do like Sale quite a bit and want him to get the win. I'm more in favor of actually using a couple of White Sox bats at these prices against him, more so than I am using Tom Kohler.
Yeah, that's fair. Definitely. I don't know. It's tough to trust this White Sox lineup. I think I'd rather, if I were to choose between stacking the White Sox and Kohler, I'd definitely go Kohler. But I don't know. I guess I could see a Melky Cabrera for 29 kind of somehow slipping in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my appeal with some of these lefties against Kohler, just because he hasn't been the greatest against them. 327 WOBA, 1.18 home runs per 9. Like, I'm okay with using Eaton, Melky Cabrera at those prices, and even taking a couple of shots with the righties. I mean, Todd Frazier, 3,300, Abreu, 41. Those are decent values for me, and there is still some upside with this team. But obviously, it's not like I'm saying, go all in against Kohler. I think it's just one of those ones I'll give a look because of the price tags.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Mets and Padres next. Steven Matz versus Clayton Richard. This Padres team is a completely different animal now against lefties. As before, I mean, there was a stretch there for a month where we kind of stayed away from lefties against the Padres because of Will Myers, who's still there, obviously, but Matt Kemp, Melvin Upton. You did have a lot, but given the fact that there are a couple more lefties in that lineup, Will Myers has kind of cooled off. I mean, obviously, you still have to worry about him and Solarte. I'm okay with Matz in this fashion here. I think he's a decent option at that price.
He is. That's the worst part. He is. I like it. Everything. I like this matchup. I like his chance at getting some run production from this Mets team that's kind of turning it on. Obviously, like you mentioned, without Matt Kemp, it really takes some of the pop out of their lineup against lefties. So I do like it. I just worry a little bit about Matz. He stays in tournament play for me, but 8,800 is pretty reasonable for that.
Yeah, it definitely is. And let's not forget about Melvin Upton. I mean, Melvin Upton was a guy they lost to, hit lefties pretty well too. So Two quality bats they took out of the lineup there against lefties. This lineup doesn't really scare me as much as they do against southpaws. And as you mentioned, I mean, some of these Mets bats, oh man, the algorithm has figured out that Neil Walker has hit lefties well this year because he's priced at 5,300. I'm bummed out.
It was good. Hey, it was really good while it lasted, man. There were a few weeks where we were just saying him, oh yeah, Neil Walker again. Yep. It was popping up in the cafe value. He's like top 3 every day. But yeah, those days are done.
I'm bummed.
Yeah.
I'm bummed out.
Hey, you know what? It turns into just if you want to overpay to get him because the ownership might be down is really the only logic you can use to roster him at that price.
Yeah, I think so. And as far as the other bats, I'm curious to see how this lineup shakes out once it comes out. I like Wilmer Flores at this point in time, 3,900. Has hit lefty as well. He's one of the guys I'm okay with using. And even Bruce in a lefty-lefty matchup, I mean, he's shown some strong power against southpaws in the past. I'm okay with that price tag.
Yeah, I agree.
So overall, I mean, it's one of those Mets lineups where I want to see what happens.
What was that? I cut out for a second.
It's one of those lineups where I just want to see what shapes up in the top 5 or 6 hitters. That's where I kind of make my move.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Rockies and Phillies here. Adam Morgan versus Tyler Chatwood. Adam Morgan, one of the worst lefties in baseball, facing off against a couple of right-handers here. I'm okay with paying for an Arenado at 5,300 or a Ryan Rayburn. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, you can make your case for some other names, but this game I feel like I'm just kind of staying away from.
I've kind of been playing around with DJ LeMahieu on this road trip. He's actually been pretty consistent. 4,600 is pretty expensive, though. That's just a tournament for me. But, yeah, like you mentioned, Arenado is kind of the one guy where you're like, okay, I can pay up for this and feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And as far as using the Phillies, I mean, I'm okay with still using some of these bats up top because they're so cheap. Cesar Hernandez, Odubel Herrera, Aaron Alter, Maikel Franco, I'm okay. I mean, Chatwood obviously been better on the road, but still kind of an average right-hander. I'm actually okay with using Phillies for value.
Yeah, I am too. Especially like you mentioned, Aaron Alter, 2,800 is a really solid price.
Yeah, it definitely is. But overall, I mean, obviously this game, a little bit of appeal from a couple of guys, but after that, you're not really diving down to the backs of these lineups.
No. Unless it's one of those yucky, like, Phillies go-off days, which I always hate because I never have enough exposure to. So, that's always hanging over our heads, but I don't think that's likely.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. Braves and Nationals, Tanner Roark versus Tyrell Jenkins. Tanner Roark is a bit expensive for me. Expensive enough to where my allergies kick up and, that's how it feels. So I can't really justify using him at that price tag. I think it really is a little too bit high for me, especially with the team that has a ton of lefties in it. Not that he's been bad against lefties, but it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure you can justify that price tag.
Vegas likes him, but I don't necessarily trust that as much as I normally would. These Braves are kind of stingy now. Even Ender Encarte, Eric Ibar, the guys at the front. Freddie Freeman's he's been just unreal of late. So I think that's something to definitely be worried about. I mean, even a Nick Markakis. So while I do like Roark at 9,800, that's too expensive for me. It's probably fading him altogether.
Yeah, I definitely think so too, just because of the price. And I'm not really in love with the Braves prices to use against him either, so it's just kind of a wash situation. But as far as using Nationals bats, I'm really all in on here against Jenkins. Trey Turner priced up a little bit, but I'm still okay with paying his price just because of how consistent he's been. But you do got to pay up to kind of get exposure to this national team.
Man, he's that guy in basketball that, like, you're the point guard, and you're like, I know he'll always make that shot if I can get it to him. Just right in the corner, spot-up shooter. He's just nailing it every time, man. Trey Turner's been unbelievable of late, so I'm okay with paying up a little, 300 more than the day before to sort of go and get him,
Yeah, I definitely think so, and I'm okay with using guys like Daniel Murphy, Wilson Ramos, and Anthony Rendon. I'm not really a fan of paying up for, so I think it's just kind of limited to basically Turner and Murphy here for me.
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of paying up at those other positions.
Agreed.
So, Diamondbacks and Red Sox next year. You got Zach Greinke versus Rick Porcello. Greinke priced down a little bit, 9,200. Facing Rick Porcello, who's been solid at home. The Porcello price tag of 11,400 is something that
Is this so? Okay, this is what I was talking about with this slate. Like, these are two of the better pitchers on the slate, and I don't like this game at all. This game is just a bunch. Like, I just feel like everyone's overpriced in this game, and it's kind of one of those where I think if you're doing tournaments and hedging, you got to just put your head down and run into this and get some exposure either way. But I don't like this matchup for either pitcher or really either lineup.
No, I don't either, and I don't like the prices in the matchup. I mean, as you pointed out, it's just everyone seems very overpriced. Something that I just feel like I'm staying away from this game in general. Pitchers, hitters. But if you did want to look to hedge, I mean, we can talk about a few guys. Jake Lamb 4-4 is reasonable. I don't mind that price tag on the Diamondback side. And even Goldschmidt. I think those are probably the two that I would look to do it with on the D-back side.
I was going to say Lamb. I'm also looking at Michael Bourne at 3-1 as kind of a YOLO play. Obviously, you like Goldschmidt and Lamb. And for the Red Sox, I'm looking at Bogarts at 41. That's kind of the reasonable price there. But overall, I mean, I could still do an Ortiz at 49. I mean, at least he's not 56.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only guy I'd probably take a shot with. Outside of that, I can't really get behind paying $5,400 for a Betts or really even Bradley at 4-1. For me, the Red Sox team, I'm just kind of staying away from for the most part.
Right.
Royals and Twins next here. Edison Volquez versus Hector Santiago. The Twins are becoming the Indians' price here, where they're consistently priced up near 5K or over 5K. I don't know. I mean, I still look to use them, but obviously it's not the most perfect matchup. I mean, Edison Volquez is still an arm that can throw a quality start. But I'm okay with using Snow, Kepler, and Dozier in GPP fashion.
I guess I would ask you one question, Jason. Are you more afraid of Edison Volquez or Max Kepler?
I'm more afraid of Max Kepler.
Good. You should be. You should
Mainly
be terrified.
Because I was the friend that was by your side through that whole entire thing.
You watched me go through it. You were just sitting there with me as, that was... Well, you know what? I'm going to face my fear. No, I'm not. All right, Max Kepler, you win again. I mean, it's kind of similar to the way I dealt with it the day before, where I'm looking at Kepler, I'm looking at Mauer potentially again, in that sort of mini lefty stack at the top.
Yeah, I definitely am too. And obviously, I mean, Vegas projected them for over 4.5 runs here. I'm definitely on board with that. This is a Minnesota team that isn't in the midst of a really nice hot streak, and it's been that for a long time here now. So I get the prices. I understand them. But obviously it's just more of a GPP play just because of it.
For sure.
As far as the Royals go, obviously facing Hector Santiago, a righty that's extremely home run prone. I mean, 325 over to right-handers, 1.71 home runs per 9. There are a couple righties I don't mind here, especially up in the top of the lineup, like Apollo Orlando, Chester Cuthbert, Lorenzo Cain, solid price. The Cain, we've been using Cain, I mean, for a value standpoint here for a long time. This is the matchup that's designated for a strong Cain performance, and against a lefty, I'm all over him at 4-1.
Totally agree. This is definitely what we're looking at for Lorenzo Cain. I mean, I really liked the matchup yesterday as well, but this is mighty fine. So definitely willing to fire away with that there. Overall, though, I still got an uneasy feeling about this Royals lineup. It's just I don't really trust anyone else. I might even, if I'm going with anyone, I might even look at a Hosmer, even though it is lefty on lefty.
Yeah, I think because the Royals are such strong value prices and we haven't really dropped into a lot of value outside of a couple of guys, this is kind of where they serve their purpose on this type of slate.
Right.
Last game here, Reds and Brewers, Willie Peralta versus Cody Reed. Really high totals on both sides here. I'm certainly okay with using a lot of names here. Obviously, Willie Peralta, I mean, been awful against both sides of the plate. Especially the lefties. I mean, 380 WOBA, 1.39 home runs per 9. Righties, 385 WOBA. So I'm really okay with firing away with this Reds offense. And I don't say this often, but I'm okay with diving down to the back end of this just for some value. Like a Scott Schebler at 3K, I'm okay with using as a punt. Eugenio Suarez, I'm certainly okay with. I'm definitely fine with them being additions to the kind of the usual trio up top.
Those are the guys that you put in your lineup and you question yourself right before you're like, yeah, Russ, you doing that today? Yep. And you don't tell anyone. unless it does well. So yeah, no, I'm in agreement. Schiebler,
Schiebler Elf.
Schiebler.
Schiebler Elf.
No, I like that price, and I agree. I mean, Willie Peralta, but I'm down for Billy Hamilton again today, and I mean, I know you are. So more stolen bases, the better. If he gets on base, you're riding out this Billy Hamilton hot streak. You've been on him for a while now, and it seems like you're reaping the benefits right now.
Yeah, I mean, every time he steals a base, I'm just, rolling off money because it's just he gets on once or twice a game, and that's all he needs to do. I mean, obviously he does need to do a little more at 5-2, but he's just extremely productive with his multi-stolen base games, and I'm certainly okay with using him, and I'm okay with the red stack, actually. I really don't mind it, even though it is pricey. I'm always okay with stacking against Peralta.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, even the Vados of the world, he is expensive, but that's certainly a cash game option to me. You look at Cozart. I mean, he hasn't been doing that well. There's a reason why he's priced down, but I think that top four is definitely in play again.
Yes, certainly. And on the Brewers side, I mean, facing extremely volatile, home run prone Cody Reed, who has shown really no ability to kind of hinder right-handed bats. Hard not to like, really, the front few here of a Villar, even a Ryan Braun at their prices. But Orlando Arcia, I mean, 3,200 I'm okay with. Hernan Perez I'm okay with. And obviously Chris Carter's the guy who I'll really take a look at for home run upside.
For sure.
So that's going to wrap things up with our DraftKings Daily Trot. Be sure to check out dailyfantasycafe.com for our great tools and content.